homeowners are listening, you're going to want to understand the dynamics of this market because it's going to change your outcome. Things are different today in 2023 than they were in 2021 and even 2022, right? So a lot of people have the wrong mindset going into selling real estate, and we just want to make sure we are setting your expectations correctly. I want to stress we are still in a seller's market. Homes are still selling in about 30 to 40 days on average, which is extremely quick and at or above list price for the most part.
Things are definitely different today. Still a seller's market, I would agree with you 100%, but things have changed a little bit. I think a seller should be a little more open to these days as opposed to like, a couple of years ago, 22, 21, even 20 was is our seller's concessions.
Yep.
When a buyer is asking for these things, you should be open to it. Well, what does a concession look like? Usually it's a few $1,000 that they asked for, the buyer asked for as a concession towards closing costs, prepaids, certain allowances as to what their side would encounter that gets with the concession gets rolled into the price and gets rolled into the loan amount. So essentially the seller isn't really coming out of pocket, these things. It's being the price is being adjusted upward to allow for that to be listed as a concession to make the loan amount a little bit more. And it's not something you should be afraid of. It's something that maybe, a couple of years ago you wouldn't see often because there was so much competition in the market. There's a little less competition in the market now. For that reason, if you want to be standing out to a potential buyer and be able to have, a quicker turnaround on the sale, it's important to be flexible.
I want to talk about some statistics that I saw, Ted, because I think this is important. So Redfin, if anybody knows that, it's a real estate brokerage. They reported of their clients, 41% of them have asked for seller concessions of some sort. 2 out of 5 buyers, and that's up from 31% from the year before. Can you talk about the rate buy down, how that works, what that contingency looks like?
In recent years, because rates were so incredibly low, you didn't see this very often. So your loan officer, your lender, will come up with an interest rate, and then they say, well, for so much money, you can buy this rate down by a half a point or a point, and that's like a lump sum that gets paid at closing. It gets added to your side. And then instead of having the market rate, which would have been the first quoted rate that your loan officer or lender provided, you'd now have the lesser rate because you paid it down. These buy downs can be added to the concession that you're asking for. Typically, that conversation about adding a certain concession in happens right at the time the purchase and sales agreement is executed, and it's there that you should know all the detail as to like, okay, what's your rate going to be? How much do you need to come up with to buy that down, so on and so forth. But that's something that's happening all the time right now. Don't put your blinders on as far as a concession is concerned. It's not necessarily coming out of your pocket. It's that 10,000 is added to the purchase price. So instead of 500, it's 510, let's say. Yeah. Okay. And now that 10,000 is added as a credit on the closing statement. The seller's net number is still going to be the same, and that's one thing that is hard for you, Emilio, to explain, because you're the one that's sitting with that listing, that seller, when you're trying to negotiate out that purchase sales agreement. Yeah. And you're coming through, and I know that you've got this ironed out real well. But it's always a conversation that takes a little bit to get that point across,